Hari Om, Om Shanti. Greetings to all the spiritual seekers. Let's chant a divine shlok from Bhagavad Gita Sankhya Yoga, Shlok Sankhya 72 as the shlok of today. Esha Brahmi Sthitihi Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati एषा ब्राह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ नैनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति आ, आ, What does it mean? When one is enlightened, he or she gets established in that dimension, the dimension of the Lord. He or she will not be deluded. Having reached that dimension, there is no way that they will come back to this trap of Maya. Even at the time of your last breath, that means at the time of renouncing the body, if you remember the Lord, if you are in His consciousness, it is guaranteed that you will reach Him. You will get to the abode of true peace and bliss. There is no doubt about it. Having said that, we always refer to internal pranayama. Internal pranayama I have done 4 or 5 sohams related to the basal chakra. We said that each chakra has number of petals. In compliance with the number of petals, it would be better to do this repetitious process of pranayama so that you can balance your apana and prana in order to realize yourself and God realize eventually. But first of all, you're purifying yourself. You're getting rid of all the kleshas, kapha, vata, pitta, the defects in your body. That means you're making your body a diamond-like in order to accommodate your ever existing Atma in this body. Otherwise, it may leave at any time. without your notice. Having said that, let's come to the divine topic of today, where I would like to run some parallels of modern science, what the modern scientists came up with, understanding the universe, the mind of God in creating this cosmos, multi universes, multi planets, galaxies, etc. Man has been striving hard to understand the mind of God as to how He created. What are the basics? What are the tiniest constituents of matter? Are they atoms, molecules, electrons, neutrons, protons, or the further infinitesimal constituents of those which make us manifest and live in this world? Since time immemorial, the Almighty has revealed all the secrets in the form of Vedic mantras or verses. Many a number of rishis perceived this knowledge directly when they were meditating, and they passed down this knowledge to the disciplic succession through millions and trillions of years. God Himself revealed this knowledge in the form of Gita Shlokas. The workings of material energy, the motions of all the bodies in this cosmos, the physical mechanics, all the forces, strong nuclear forces, weak nuclear forces, electromagnetic radiation, gravitational force, everything God embedded into the Gita Shlokas. But one needs to understand the inner meaning. Many a number of scientists, including Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, and others, came up with modern equations, principles to explain the inner workings of material bodies in this cosmos. Albert Einstein, as you remember, he came up with E equals mc square. Energy equals mass multiplied by speed of light squared. That means energy and mass, they're interchangeable. They convert from one form to another form. They are one and the same. On a massive scale, if it happens, on a small scale, also it can happen. When it gets converted to the energy on the left from the mass that it has, the energy does not have any mass, but only in the manifested form, You have energy plus mass. Then only you can have anything manifested. So that's the theory of relativity between energy and mass. Albert Einstein published this discovery in 1905 in Annus Mirabilis as the miracles of that particular year. But you see, Lord Krishna embedded this information that E equals mc square in one of the Bhagavad Gita Shlokas, which is Bhumirapo analo vayuvu kammano buddhirevacha. Bhumirapo analo vayuvu kammano buddhirevacha. Ahankaramiti me bhinna prakriti rastadha. Ahankaramiti me bhinna prakriti rastadha. Lord Krishna said billions and trillions of years ago, with each Mahakalpa, we do not even know the age of this cosmos. Many cycles have gone by. In fact, he embedded E equals mc square into this shlok. And there is another shlok which I'm going to utter. Earth, water, fire, ether, and air. All the gross elements, but initially they were subtle. They became gross, the combinations, permutations actually made this perishable world that we live in. Along with these three gross elements, we have mind, intellect, and ahankar, that possessiveness that you are loading over this world. All eight of them, they constitute is material energy. God's alone, his Shakti, along with Purusha and Prakriti makes a manifestation in the world that you see. Whatever is not manifest, it is subtle, including your individualized Atman energy. It is subtle. You cannot see it, you cannot comprehend it unless you realize yourself and God realize. Then only you can perceive as to what it is. What does this constitute? Which everything gets powered. That material energy gets powered by the soul energy. Both of them have to be there in order to manifest. So, Nainam chindanti shastrani Nainam dahati pavakaha Nainam chindanti shastrani नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः न शोषयति मारुतः. Herein Lord Krishna actually describes the nature of soul energy. Soul energy which is unmanifest, cannot be broken into pieces by any weapon. It cannot be moistened with water. It cannot be dried with air. It cannot be burnt out by fire. It is eternal. You see, when this energy is there in a manifested jiva or a human being, everything works well. You perform your duties. But you see, when the body fails, which is the material energy, made up of material energy, that body, and that soul energy is there, which you cannot see. When the soul energy leaves the body, this goes back. If you are enlightened, it goes back without any material contamination. But if you have karmic reactions accumulated in your account, you will come back to another new body. So here, material in the form of a mass and that material energy, they are different from the soul energy. Soul energy does not have any mass at all. Soul is massless, no electrons, no protons, no neutrons, or any other constituents of those three. No Higgs bosons, nothing. It is non-material, it's spiritual. That's how it is, the God. You cannot comprehend unless you are enlightened. See for yourself. Take to spiritualism. Perform sadhana every day, internal pranayama. Realize yourself right here in your Agna Chakra. And then realize that Mahabharat, the absolute God, in your Sahasrara Chakra. Then you can understand everything. So herein we actually ran a parallel to E equals mc square, about an inch or half an inch equation explaining God's material energy. It was done in 1905 by Albert Einstein. You see, the same thing Lord Krishna embedded in both of those shlokas we just uttered. Bhumirapo analo vayu and Nainam chindanti shastrani. Both of them, both of them contain material energy, and then you have spiritual energy, that soul energy, the super soul energy. Mind that both are different, but at the same time, for simplicity, E equals mc square, that is correct. Both are, interchangeable, mass and energy. But the energy of soul is quite different though. Okay? It is not materialistic at all. Just like our body has material energy as well as soul energy. So it was very well explained by Lord Krishna to the sun, to the Manu, and Brahma, and the various rishis trillions of years ago, and the same knowledge that we know now, and the modern scientists who are deriving this information from Vedic scriptures, but there is no mention, there is no reference with various rishis, etc. But we don't see any reference to the Vedas. When a great modern physicist or scientist comes up with such a proposal, and the whole world believes, but all this knowledge is there in the Vedic scriptures, in Upanishads, in Gita, but not in the form of modern equations that you read and understand in terms of letters and numbers indicating various factors in that equation. So there are many parallels like this. We can also quote parallels between Newton's laws of motion and Bhagavad Gita Shlokas. Sir Isaac Newton came up with the laws of motion, the universal laws of motion, in 17th century, some 380 years ago. And also, he explained about how things fall onto the earth. What's the reason? He explained through his universal gravitational force theory. Without the gravitational force, nothing exists in this cosmos. All the moving bodies, as per their mass, they have equivalent gravitational force that is exerted on the other bodies around it or in the vicinity. It's like all the galaxies are moving around the black holes, and the sun is moving around the galaxies, and the earth is moving around, spinning on its own axis and rotating around the sun along with the other planets. And each one of the planets have their satellites also moving around. Without the gravitational force, nothing can exist. They actually bump into each other, and then great calamity happens. Without the Higgs boson's energy, the Higgs boson particles, the molasses-like, we will not have stability at all. We bump into each other. If that energy is not there, you can't see it. But they are the constituents of protons. They are the ones, they actually provide mass to your body, some resistance force. As a result, you exist as an individual, where you have your Atman energy residing right here in your Agna chakra, providing power to all your bodily organs, your mind, your intellect, your ahankara, your chitta, your memory power, and making all your different systems work properly so that you give a nice shelter to your individualized Atman energy right here in your Prakriti, So let's make use of what we have, what we are endowed with Atman energy, with good body, good mind, and intellect. Let's make use of this opportunity as a human being to get back to our roots being our real Father, that Almighty God. You can personalize the Almighty God, the Absolute God, into Lord Krishna, Lord Shiva, Lord Rama, or any other incarnations we have been talking about. Okay, so let's come back to what Sir Isaac Newton came up with in order to explain the laws of motion, and then how Lord Krishna explained a long time ago what the modern scientists like Newton are trying to understand God's mind, God's creation of the material world, the physical dynamics of the physical of this universe. So Sir Isaac Newton came up with three of the laws of motion. The first one being any object that is in constant motion, it's always in motion, unless and until there is an external force influencing it to stop it or to reduce its speed or its direction. On the other hand, anything that is stationary, it remains as a stationary object until and unless an external force exerts force on it to move. And it moves to the extent how much external force is acting on it. So, what did Lord Krishna say about it? So, it is to something to do with your karma. We all do karma. That means we take actions every day. And some that do not. Okay, they remain as a stationary object, a stationary living being. Some perform their duties, they understand their responsibilities, and they perform their karma. By performing our karma, we accumulate karmic reactions. We may experience karmic reactions in the same Janma, or it is carried over to the next Janma when you are in a new body. Or that karma can be coming in the future, new additional karma in the bag of Sanchita karma. All your karmic reactions you will experience as prarabdha karma. So let's explain this. An object keeps on moving constantly unless and until it gets in touch with external force. It keeps on going. Just like Earth, just like the sun, just like the other objects going around another object in the cosmos. Similarly, when you perform your duties without attachment to the fruits of your actions, without any desire, but only utilize minimum from that work to sustain yourself, sustain your family, you would not incur any sin. You're performing your prescribed duty. And then You do not have any attachment, you do not have any desire to use it for your own selfish ends. So does the earth. 24/7, it's in motion, never stops. It does not expect anything from you. Unselfish. So is the sun. All of them are helping you survive on this planet without any desires. That means if you perform your duties with zero desire and yet with only minimum utilization in this world, you would not incur any sin. That's what it means. And if you, on the other hand, do not do any work, but in their mind, they are doing everything. They are doing everything in their mind. Then, if you do not perform your duty, but think about it, you're highly desirous to experience. Your desires are running wild in your brain, in your mind. That means, that means you are in action, yet you appear as you are not doing, you are not performing any action, but you are into action silently in your mind. But you see, the earth is working 24/7, and yet it is not working because it is unselfish. It's like a mother's love towards her child, a cow's love towards her calf. They do not expect anything in return. They serve 24/7 in taking care of their babies. Such is mother's love. It's like it's like two brothers. One is taking care of his family, is doing his prescribed duties. He has taken to farming, bunch of workers around him. He's sharing everything with them, and he is keeping his family very happy without without many desires. On the other hand, his elder brother ran away from this material world because he found it very difficult to be with the family working hard in the farmland. He ran away and he was pretending like a monk. He was doing penance under a tree in an isolated place. But all the desires were running in his mind, in his brain. And after 3, 4 years, he comes back to the village to be with the family. That means, even though he was not doing anything, but his mind was full of desires. He was working only with the desires, running toward them. But that means he was in action, although he was not doing anything. On the other hand, the younger brother was doing all kinds of actions, but he was in inaction. Okay? So, how is it in the form of a verse? Karmanya karmayaha, karmanya karmayaha, पश्यदे कर्मणि च कर्मयः स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृत्स्नकर्मकृत् स बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु स युक्तः Taha krutsna karma krit. Ah, the enlightened beings, they see action in inaction and inaction in action. We just talked about one person is in action but appears to be in inaction, and the other one was in action but he was indeed in inaction. The younger brother with the older brother who ran away, he was in inaction, but at the same time he was in action because he was incurring sin because of his thoughts, desires. So those who can understand this concept, seeing that action in inaction and inaction in action, they are the ones, they perform their prescribed duties for the welfare of the society, for the welfare of the world. So, like a mother takes care of her baby, a cow taking care of her calf, or the planets revolving around to sustain us without stopping, without selfish motives. That's what, you know, is being explained by this shlok that we just uttered, that runs in parallel with what Sir Isaac Newton came up with as his first law of motion. Then coming to the second one, second law of motion is that where the force of an object is equivalent to its mass multiplied by its acceleration. So the force on the left and the mass of that object multiplied by its acceleration, they're equal in that equation. So, but you see, you cannot see the energy. You can only feel it when it is applied. But as an object, you would see it because it is manifesting as a body. And you know its motion, okay, its speed, its acceleration. You gotta multiply to get its force, its energy on the left. So, how does this fit into Lord Krishna's shlok? So, people always ask, where is God and all those things, how do you see? See, you are in the form of this body, color, shape, and all those things. But you see, when somebody is asking, or you are asking the same question about the God, how do you see? You are not putting enough efforts equivalent to your bodily energy, your force, the force that you have in physicality, and the force of the Atma. They have to work in tandem. Put all your energy, all your efforts, focus all your senses, all five senses, ears, eyes, nose, tongue, and touch. Of course, all other action organs, whatever they can do in worshipping the God. Manmana bhava madbhakto, manmana bhava madbhakto, madhyajimam namaskuru, manmana bhava madbhakto, madhyajimam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yuktvevamatmanam matparayanaha mame vaishyasi satyam te प्रतिजानाति प्रियोऽसि मे प्रतिजानाति प्रियोऽसि मे ए, ए, in order to understand the total energy, the total force from an object, you have to multiply the mass of the body with the acceleration. Then you understand the total energy, the total force of that object. Similarly, when you focus on the Lord or the absolute God or the personalized God, or to understand yourself, your true nature as soul energy, you need to put all efforts, your body efforts, your senses, those five senses, mainly your mind. That means when you control your senses, as the sixth sense, your mind controls them. You conquer your senses. That means your mind is controlling them. When the mind is under control of all this, that means you're making use of your intelligence. When you're using your intelligence, that means you know the difference between the good and the bad. You have that discriminatory power. When you are at that stage, that means you also have the true identification of yourself as the soul energy. When once that is established, that means you are using the full force in order to understand yourself and the God. Look at the parallel between Sir Isaac Newton's second law of motion and Lord Krishna's this stanza. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. You gotta worship me. In your mind, you always think about me. You you sing about me. That kirtan you gotta do. You have to get to my dham, that means abode. Get to know my devotees. You become one of those devotees by offering anything that you have at your disposal. You do not need to offer me all your wealth. I just need a flower, a fruit, water, patram pushpam phalam, toyam, a leaf. I think we covered all of them. He will accept anything from you if you have a purified antakaran, the purified mind and body, and then you offer him, he will accept. You become the dearest one to him. He says, become my devotee and then pay obeisances to me. Then you are guaranteed that you will reach my abode. I promise you. That's what he says. Pratijanati, pratijanati priyosime. You will be one of the dearest ones to him. But you gotta dedicate everything to him. That is matparayanaha. You gotta dedicate everything to Him. So, this implies all the knowledge is there in the form of these Bhagavad Gita stanzas, or in Upanishads, you can find them, or in the Vedas, you can find the same thing. So, coming to the third one, Sir Isaac Newton's third law of motion is for every reaction, there is for every action, there is a reaction. That's what it is. So, how does this compare? Or how does this run in parallel with what Lord Krishna said in chapter number 4 and Shlok Sankhya 11? Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sthataiva bhajamyaham. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sthataiva bhajamyaham. Mama vartmano vartante manushyaha partha sarvashah. Mama vartmano vartante manushyaha partha sarvashah. You know, there is this law of karma written by the Lord and published by the Lord and revealed by the rishis, revealed by Bhagavan himself. In the beginning, we do not know the beginning and the end. But you see, for every 311 trillion and 40 billion years, a Mahakalpa happens. And it will be in dormancy for that many years. Believe it or not, that is the truth. And He has made these laws, the laws of karma. Whether you are a theist or atheist, you are subject to that law of karma, natural law of karma. You will undergo your sanchita karma as prarabdha karma, and you always have the agami karma as well, ready to be accumulated into your account. How do you make yourself as a clean slate? You need to perform that yoga sadhana. Purify your body, purify your mind, intellect. Attach yourself to your true self right here. And then realize the Almighty. And then at the time on this planet, when you leave the body behind, nothing comes along with you. Only the pure consciousness, that Atma, gets unionized with the Paramatman. That's it, you're home. So, coming back to Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sthataiva bhajamyaham. However you surrender to me, whatever path you take to reach me, I equally reciprocate. Bhajamyaham, that means I reciprocate the same amount for the welfare of your spiritualism. and also materialism minimally. It is guaranteed. I give a reply. I take care of you. मामेवैष्यसि युक्त्वैवम् मामेवैष्यसि युक्त्वैवम् मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याय पार्थ सर्वशः. That means whatever I have written about the karmic law, whether you are a theist or atheist or agnostic, you have to follow that. There is no escape. All human beings, all jivas, whatever, there are 8.4 billion of them, all of them, they have to follow the karmic law. Okay? So this is how we can show a parallel between Gita Shlokas and the modern scientists' equations explaining the material world. But you see, no modern scientist is trying to show what the soul energy is. But we know apparently as a consciousness. The symptom of soul is consciousness. How do you know that you exist? It is because of the soul power that you exist here, that I am actually producing this divine video clip demonstrating what is in Gita, trying to describe and explain how human beings are trying to understand the mind of God when He created the world and what are the constituents of the material energy. Again, spiritual energy is soul energy, where you do not have any scientific proof or an equation explaining that Atman energy. As of now, we only know that it is consciousness, awareness, goes through all stages: wakefulness, dream, deep sleep, and pure consciousness. It's only consciousness. Okay, stick to that consciousness as the God and put your efforts to become a pure consciousness or to understand that you are a pure consciousness. Then you transform yourself for good so that you do not undergo the rigmarole of samsara, the roller coaster life of this samsara. You will be blessed and get that true peace and bliss. So before we say goodbye or say swasti, let's a little bit touch on the permanent nature of the soul, where Lord Krishna embedded this information in Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nahinam Dahati Pahavaka, Nachainam Kledayantyapo, Nashosha Yati Marutaha. It has a relationship with what the modern science says, the modern physicists, how they proposed about this verse, but nobody makes a reference that this particular shlok served for us to come up with this particular equation to explain energy. As you know, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It is always there. It gets converted from one form to another form. So does is Lord Krishna's shlok says. The energy is always there. Physical energy and the spiritual energy always existed with him. He is the one. He is playing with both of them in his dream cosmos in which we are. Indeed, it is a dream cosmos. Let's get out of this dream. Go to the reality with your real individualized soul. But you need to get that liberation because you are in a jail in this body. It's a good jail if you make use of it. All other jails that you evolve through, not so good at all. Not so good at all. This is the best jail. Jail of body in which you reside. Be pure. Realize yourself as a pure consciousness and go to the roots. That Almighty. It can be, as I always mention, a personalized God, such as Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, Lord Shiva. So at his lotus feet. I hope this divine production helps understand the modern equations. And also one more thing. Nowadays, or since 10 to 15 years, scientists have been working very hard again to understand God's mind. You know about the particle, the subparticle of a proton, which is serving as molasses in this cosmos. For us to behave the way we do without bumping into each other, providing us mass because of its resistance power. But you cannot see the Higgs boson field. It is there. It is spread all over, uniformly, just like the universal consciousness. We are talking about now the string theory. The string theory they came up with as many dimensions, not just 3 to 4 dimensions in which the things in general exist in this cosmos. For anything to manifest, it has to have length, height, and depth. Along with these 3 dimensions, you need also time. So that means we live in a world of 4 dimensions. But you see, the physicists, in order to explain God's mind about the material world, they came up with 11 dimensions. Just recently, they also came up with 26 dimensions. For example, if you take a paper, 2-dimensional paper, 8 by 11, you fold, you make it as a cylinder, you make many folds until you cannot make any folds. So how many folds it makes? So those many, folds or crumples are there with everything in order to explain all the forces in the universe. Maybe infinite dimensions, not just 10, 11, or 26, whatever, or 4. Only God knows about the dimensions of those material things. But what is the dimension of the Atman energy? It is only one dimension. Only one dimension. No duality. Let's get to that one dimension where there is peace and bliss. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Shwasti.